All right, guys, we're talking about one of the most fundamental movements today, and that's the squat. All right, so when you're doing the squat in your workouts, we want to make sure that it's safe, that it's effective, and it's going to achieve results for the long term and not end up hurting you in the long term. All right, so first things first, we really want, there's 5 main things that we're going to talk about, but the main thing here is midline stabilization. Okay, so what that really means is that your hip to your shoulder is connected through your core, right? Back, abs, all of it is connected. Okay, so when we load that hip, we reach those hips back. Okay, when you reach the hips back, we don't want to go like this. Okay, if you look, that's not being connected to my shoulder, right, through the midline. All right, but it's also creating an arch in the back. All right, so we don't want an arch in the lower back. We want a neutral spine. All right, and we will load the hip here. So my shoulder will come forward every bit as much as the hip will go backwards. All right. Using my arms, I like to displace my weight this way so that I feel a little more balanced. All right. So it's like a counterweight. The next thing we'll talk about is weight displacement. So as we go into weight displacement, it's how your feet feel in contact with the floor. Right. So if your feet are feeling it only in your heels and your toes are lifting up like this, you're not accessing neuromuscularly different muscles here, right? So this will activate more muscle, right? Vice versa, if you come up on your toes, right? You're not accessing the muscles that this will gain access to, which is usually going to be hamstrings and glutes, right? So we want our full foot in contact with the ground, okay? As far as this goes, when you're descending into that squat, you've loaded your hips first and you're starting to go down. If you still start feeling momentum at any point, shift into the toes, you need to stop, fix, and then continue the movement, okay? Try not to just go like this for as many reps as you can, all right? Because you will eventually hurt your knees, especially with the amount of running in our program, okay? So next thing we need to talk about with those knees is how the knee tracks, okay? So the knee does not want to cave towards the middle, right? So if we see the knee and we make a line from knee to big toe, that's a problem. We want that knee to go about over the pinky toe. Now, as far as the degree in which the knee is forward, that's gonna change depending on the individual's length of their limbs, okay? So don't stress too much about the knees going forward too far, but if they're going forward so far that you feel the weight in your toes like I'm feeling right now, right? You might not see a bunch of air here, but I can feel in my brain that my toe is taking most of the load right now, okay? So I need to adjust, okay? So my knee gets pulled back a little bit, all right? With that, we'll talk a little bit about how far your feet should be apart. You should be able to squat from multiple stances, okay? But if we look at that knee tracking in different stances, if I bring my feet together, I'm going to have an excessive knee out when I squat from here, okay? If I go too wide, my knees will not be able to go out and they will be inside, right? So it needs to be, usually the cue is shoulder width, right? It needs to be about shoulder width. And then with our foot and that weight displacement, we don't want to be excessively turned out here, okay? So the toe should be relatively forward. It's okay to have a little bit of turnout, that's fine. But don't go too far, all right? Now, as far as range of motion, this is usually where people things start falling apart with the squat. If you get to here and you start losing your midline stabilization, it might look like this, where your back starts rounding, okay? You can feel that for yourself, or you can video it a couple times and look at it from the side angle, right? You'll see when that rounding takes place. Same thing happens when they go, if you initiated your squat with that pelvic tilt that we talked about at the beginning, breaking that midline stabilization, as you go down, eventually it's going to fix itself and you'll do what they call butt wink. So really try to make sure that the pelvis is set, loading the hip, then squatting. For the range of motion, if you can't get full depth, what you can do is use a tool, right? Something to squat to. So here, I can squat to it, and I can physically sit on it and be like, okay, in that rep, I was on my toes by the time I got down to the box. So I'm gonna fix it, plant my feet, get my stance, get my torso upright so that my core is engaged, and then arms in front. I'm only gonna lean forward as far as I need to stand up, okay? And when I stand up, I'm thinking glutes, right? Really emphasize the glutes. being what stands you up, and that'll help you a lot with your deadlifts, okay, especially with that trap bar. Last thing here is if you feel like you're going so fast in a workout and you're starting to lean to one side, or you're breaking that midline down, most of the time all you really need to do is slow it down. So if I'm going like this and my knees aren't tracking right, I'm not even standing up all the way, I don't feel my glutes engaging, I'm just going to slow down, make sure I can feel it, okay? Just because it takes you more time doesn't mean that you're not doing as much work, okay? So you want to do the work well before you increase your intensity, okay? If you guys have any questions, just leave them in the comments below, or there will be an email in the description. You can email that as well.